presentation by Sachin Garg, who is the Chief Data Officer with ICICI Bank. He is responsible for creating the governance and process around the data to enable growth in risk-calibrated core operating profit and a higher degree of compliance. He is a accomplished leader with 20 years of experience in financial planning and strategy, with deep expertise in business intelligence, data science, and modeling across sectors. He has headed data science practices at the bank, including deposit, cross-sell, fraud control, geo-spatial, marketing automation, and analytics. Can we welcome him with a big round of applause, please? Thank you. Yes, sir.
Apologies, I don't have a presentation, but I'll talk on certain relevant points. And I think the topic is such which says that why we as a data team basically get paid for. So how do we really derive the ROI out of whatever we do, is very important. And I'm just repeating a very boring line which we keep on hearing, that data is the new oil, right? But the topic again is such, I would say data in its crude form is actually crude oil, and engines really don't run on the crude oil. So what Piyush was talking, what Ankur has just spoken about, I heard that make my trip, that feature store is a beautiful thing. I mean, that's the entire wiring we have to do, in order to make sure that we have put up those right refineries in order to derive the real petrol or diesel out of this, and then getting the ROI out of that. Now, importantly, where do we fail? I mean, as an organization, be it a small scale organization or a large scale, medium scale organization, there are three components which I feel are really, really necessary for any data strategy to work. Right starting from the top, whether do we have the management focus and the sponsorship when I talk about, because a lot of organizations would say, okay, what do we really get from the data? It may be an MIS or a dashboarding, that's it. People stop there. They really don't move forward to the predictive power or the descriptive power of the data, and hence, management focus and sponsorship really becomes very, very important. Second one, of course, do we have the right set of capabilities created in the organization, be it in form of the resources, platforms, or sort of data orchestration needs that we have. Third, and what we figured out at ICICI Bank is the most important one is the last mile implementation of everything what we do as a project. So what do we mean by last mile implementation? Whether there is a ready platform to consume your data model, or there is a field team, let's say spread across various offices, branches, they are able to understand what has been sent to them. So that way, it is very important that whatever we do is implemented nicely and is taken to the last mile where they are able to comprehend the data. I'll further explain this concept with three basic dilemma for all the stakeholders, like basically we have. First one being, say, our own data scientist or data analyst who is working on it. He really feels, in the erstwhile scenario, if I talk about a journey of 5-6 years behind, he really would say, why do I play the role of a product manager when you talk about a last mile implementation? Why should I be really worrying about giving you operating profits out of my model which I create? My job was to create a model, predict something, give it. Now the implementation team should do something about it. That used to be the mindset. If it is the mindset, then of course you are not going to get your ROIs. That was the dilemma from data scientists, I would say. Second dilemma could be from the sales managers who are going to consume your information which you have processed and giving to them as, let's say, nudges for talking to the customers rightly or giving the right set of propositions to them. Dilemma for them is whether I'm getting the right set of data, for calling my customer. Because from our side, we may at the data analytics unit feel that we have sent right information, but it is not really relevant for the sales managers or the relationship managers to work upon. Third, from the customer aspect, the most important stakeholder, would feel again whatever he is receiving as a communication direct to customer, which we call as through our MarTech stack. They may feel, it is not relevant for me, or it's not really relevant. While at the bank, or any organization, we feel that it is the most hyper-personalized and equal to one sort of communication we have done. But that's not the case which customer is perceiving from their standpoint. So these are really certain three things I thought are very relevant. Moving further, I would say if we have to see whether we are deriving right ROI out of data, we have to see it from two standpoints. One, when you are in the stage of setting up a large data setup and making large investments, so you are investing 100 million, 200 million, 300 million, 400 million for creating a data warehouse or data lake or a CDP, that's a large money. That's one stage. There, of course, we need to be sure whether I will be able to get, management is of course concerned that whether we will get the right set of returns back while we are investing so hugely on the faith of one, let's say, data head or a CTO or whatever we call it as a role of, because we really have to sell those things, right? Now, overall capex would fail only if we have not set any right test scenarios for us. Once the implementation is done, what are the use cases we are going to implement? What is the measurement of the success I need to have for each project which is attributed to that? If we don't do this wiring at the beginning, then of course your investment can go waste, and that's where you start getting that flag from the management where they will say, okay, why do we really invest in future, just on the faith of something. So how do we really create those use cases? How we do the measurement of success is very, very important from that front. That's how we felt, and that's where almost a decade back when we implemented big data in our bank, we sort of had very large 25 to 30 use cases which we said we will be delivering out of it. And once we were in the stage of 6 months, 1 year down the line of the implementation, we kept on communicating the success out of each of the use cases. It's not that we were able to implement all 25, 30. We were able to implement, say, 60, 70% of it. But yes, we were able to recover the cost, not only recover, but deliver much, much more multiple of the ROI out of that. But had we not defined our use cases, then we were like doomed. And we would have been questioned again, why do we invest in future for data scouting, for platformization, or, creating sort of those platforms. So that was number one. I think second one is a day-to-day affair. Every project we do, we have to deliver ROI on that. So one is large investment, one is second business as usual. Everything that we take up as a project should deliver the value out of it. Now, how we have tackled that as at bank is, or at our analytics unit, we are a very centralized unit, managing data cross functions, is divided into 4 parts. What I say to my all analysts and data scientists is really divide the things when you take up into 4 parts. First and the foremost is, there need to be a business problem. I mean, there should be a real problem to solve for. Otherwise, then you are just doing the exploratory work. And who are really the stakeholders who are going to be impacted by it? Has this thing been tried in past? Is it something new happening? Ask those stakeholders, who will be taking it forward for final implementation. So that's one. Once the business problem is properly defined, then we need to convert into an analytical problem, right? So whether the data is complete with me, or I am aware of all the features or variables related to that, right? So do I need to ask anyone a question about it? And one of the most important things which we thought is very, very relevant is my analyst or scientist capturing the thought process into a white paper at the beginning itself? If you just start your modeling, by keeping the things in the mind, and as the things come your way, then you are not going to build a very robust model, right? So have you created a white paper, developed the understanding with the stakeholders who had defined the business problem to you? That becomes really, really important. And third part in that journey is, how do you bring an analytical solution to your analytical problem? that goes into the fact that you not only measure your model success basis the outcome of your model in terms of, you know, how much is the Gini coefficient I'm getting, or what is the KS there, how much is the precision recall I'm getting, not that. In addition to that, we need to also convert it into a measurable operating profit equivalent or reduction of cost or any other metric which is understood by the business, right? Because you may be operating at 80% accuracy of any model, but if it is not rightly implemented in terms of measurement, in terms of ultimate profits, then we really don't know what is happening around it. Last part there is, of course, you know, comes in this is the converting this analytical solution into a business solution, because where it need to be implemented, right? And what will be my measure of success? What will be my governance model in terms of communication and reporting of that success? That becomes very relevant. So that brings really the end of the first part I wanted to talk about. Any questions or anything is something somebody wants to add at this stage? Or I can move on. Did anybody face this situation that 100% cases you are able to achieve the ROI out of your projects? Is that the case? That's the best word we are in. Yes, sorry.
Expect similar things, right? The way you mentioned, right? We set up the BDL in the year 2019, and we started with 10, 15 use cases and all. And at this moment, more than 380 use cases, yeah, including hypersupervisor. But not a single time, nobody can ensure that what is my control unit. I mean, I spent $100x, whether I am getting ROI returns 300x, the still question mark for us, right? We are not absolutely there, and we are trying to figure out what is the kind of control units for each use cases we are building, and the revenue we are getting in terms of a cross-sell, upsell, retentions, or any models. More than 55 models we have built in terms of big data stuffs and all. Of course, we are going many things to the cloud, right? But we are not there absolutely 100%. Maybe 45 to 50% we are there. Rest 60% is still in talks. I mean, we are not able to measure the campaigns. A lot of martech toolings we have introduced. It's nothing we are able to measure. I mean, it is still there. I mean, I'm not sure how organizations are doing or how ICC, they are able to measure it, but we are not there.
No, so that's very apt. It's the dilemma. Like I said, I use the word dilemma at all stakeholders. And see, we need to clearly define the success criteria for everything. I'll take a very simple example, and that's where any of the partner works with you. He will say, let's say there are partners who come to create AI/ML models for you if you don't have the in-house capabilities. Let's say, so they will pitch you for, let's say, churn analytics. We do the churn prediction, right? So at the bank, we have been doing it for decades. What is the channel you are adopting for converting that model? Then of course you are not measuring it rightly. So we sort of face this, and the folly of this entire thing is your data scientist will continue to report that this model is working perfectly already, but we have earned zero or we have restricted outflow of zero profit out of that. I mean, so profit is still drained out, right? So because the thing is, he will say my model accuracy is 70%. In churn, let's say 70% accuracy is good. But when we are going to the customer, and he has built in, in saying, oh, I predicted 100 customers to attrite. Out of that, 30 have not actually attrited. So this is my saving completely done. Now come to a situation where I have not kept any control group and not measuring it as any control group. Right? Control group concept is very important for ROI. So if I would have done nothing on it and I would have just sat, again 30 would have been saved there also. So I have, in a scenario of doing nothing, 30 customers would have still retained with me, not attrited. So it's not that something model has done greatly, right? Unless you do it right, measurement is very key. Test group, control group clearly defined. At least 10% customer I have not done any action of my model, and then have seen that Praveen, you were talking about A/B testing in your presentation. So that's very really important. I really love that model that Make My Trip runs with. That is felt by the customer also, that is relevant. So that's what I think. Does that answer a little bit? Like, so we need to see how I am measuring it correctly or not, right? We spoke about during the day on the data governance part of it also. Now, data governance has two components. One, how do I manage the access? Who is given the access? Am I taking care of the PI data of the customer or not? Second is, what is the quality of data I have captured? When we onboard the customer in a bank, am I having a simple, let's say, demographics of that customer captured properly? Say an email ID or mobile. And for that matter, let's say we are also obliged to take the PAN numbers, etc. as part of KYC. So PAN becomes very important there. So that data quality is interesting. All the while, when regulatory norms were also not very strong, or let's say historically, we do have customers with dummy mobile numbers. Or my mobile number updated in, let's say, anybody else's, those sort of scenarios did exist. We have done an extensive work in correcting it completely, and that's where the role of, CDO was also defined, and, all these cleanups are happening. Now, how do we impact the ROI? If I don't have the contact number of a customer, how do I interact with them? What emailers, notifications, SMS, etc. I send? So then you are relying on your heavy, that working model of branch, wherein branch manager will go and meet the customer. So that is not the way we are operating in the digital world now. So it's very important. If I don't have a proper PAN or other things, I won't be able to link a customer. I won't be able to, let's say, link my one account with the other account. That becomes very important from having the grouping point of view. Having the family banking, point of view, which are my linkages, from the family, which customer has not come and explicitly told you. But by using all these markers, you can do it from the back end. So in our bank, we do have, multiple of customers which have been identified from back end by us in data analytics, that this customer is linked to somebody else who is part of the same family group. So those sort of use cases are very important. So from the quality framework point of view, these two things or these two components are very, very important, is what we figured out. And I was reading in not one survey, many surveys, that organizations lose millions, if the data quality is not accurate. Now, what is that figure? I don't know. It depends on organization to organization. But yeah, that's a big loss which we have. I also wanted to talk about, certain use cases which, let's say, takes time to mature, right? For example, what message we give to our data scientists, like I was telling, that there need to be a complete ROI focus. They also need to operate with the operating profit. Yeah. So operating profits in mind. However, we also give them free hand, to take certain moonshots, which may not derive the value today, but maybe 2 years hence from now, 4 years hence from now. So we don't stop their creativity, by saying that you have to work in the last mile implementation. You have the free sketch, you do your work, that becomes very important. And we have various things, let's say we talk about CLV model, where we create an entire customer profitability, predict the customer profits. So we have done this in, let's say, 2014. But actual implementation of it may take time, and since we had created our framework ready that time, we were able to go ahead and implement very quickly in the current world, where it has become very relevant. So those sort of moonshots, of course, really lead to the what you call as the windfall gains, I would say, in future, and you get the relevant tailwinds, definitely in order to achieve those. So that's how I think is the subject I thought I will cover, and if